It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. This round, MotoAmerica Superbikes at Barber. It's our first round of 9 for 2025 here from Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama. And it's time for Motovation Supersport Race number 2. Welcome everyone to the broadcast. In the broadcast booth, I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, yesterday, obviously, we had a great race, and the results were really, really good for Matthew Skoltz and Yamaha on the R9. But today, we arrive here at Barber Motorsports Park, and it is soggy.
Yeah, we've been talking all year about how this class is going to have some new people get involved, but it was the same two guys at the front, Matthew Skoltz and PJ Jacobsen. Now today it's going to be a little bit different race with a lot of precipitation overnight. Started raining here in Alabama about midnight last night, and it hasn't stopped.
Yeah, and that's going to be really interesting conditions here. But yesterday we told you we had a nice race one under broken clouds, and here is the way everything turned out.
Well, it was Matthew Skoltz right off the bat on that R9 grade, getting the whole shot to turn one. You can see his teammate Blake Davis gets in there right behind him. Ty Scott and PJ Jacobsen were following in tow. As you see, PJ got through on Ty Scott down into turn one. Davis gets out of shape coming out of the last corner, which would allow eventually PJ Jacobsen to sneak down the inside of him later on in the lap to give chase to Matthew Skoltz. Unfortunately, Aiden Sneed brought out the red flag with about 3 or 4 laps to go. It was Matthew Skoltz picking up right where he left off last year. He's got that number 1 plate on there, Greg, and it's a good way to start the season. Yeah,
for Matthew Skoltz, his 24th career win and the number 1 plate. Oh, look, so it was Skoltz, PJ Jacobsen, and Blake Davis. And what we thought was really interesting is, JP, this is the way they ended the season last year in the points. Yeah. With Skoltz, PJ, and Blake Davis.
Yeah, you got to expect that Blake Davis's numbers are going to go up a lot this year. We're going to see that podium count up. I would expect to see him get a few wins as well. Teammates to Matthew Skoltz, so he's going to be learning all year. PJ Jacobsen, you know what he is. He's a workhorse. He's going to figure out a way to get that Ducati to win some races as well.
So it is raining pretty hard down there, but we'll see what's going on trackside as we welcome Hannah Lopa to the broadcast.
Guys, there's no avoiding these conditions today. It has been raining nonstop all day long, not much of a reprieve at all. These guys did get to go out earlier today, and the general consensus from the majority of the riders is that the track conditions were actually not as bad as they had anticipated. The obvious areas where water is pooling is where water is pooling, and they just kind of have to plan accordingly. For the most part, everyone acknowledges, like, this is our fate, and it's the same for everyone. As far as measures that can be taken to kind of mitigate the rain, a lot of bike setup changes, obviously completely different from yesterday. You'll see a lot of clear visors out there, which is something I particularly enjoy because you don't always get to see the rider's eyes and where they're looking and the expressions on their face while they're riding. Some rain tires, and you might see some riders with some clear kind of raincoats over their leathers, but other than that, I mean, they're saturated all the way through. It is about 70 degrees right now, so not too cold, but I'm sure things are definitely much worse for the guys out there when they're just being fully exposed to the elements and not under an umbrella like me or up in your cozy booth where you're nice and dry right now.
Wow, I mean,
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
not that cozy.
My feet are a little wet from walking in this morning, but yeah, Hannah's definitely got the grind on with all that rain out there for sure. But Jay, let's talk about these conditions more.
Well, the hardest thing is you heard that most of the riders thought the conditions were okay. The big problem, Greg, is when they go off into turn one together, the spray. Obviously, we've got it coming down really hard. We had a small little window where it wasn't raining quite as hard, where it looked like it was going to start to improve. The conditions, I think, are going to be a little different than when these guys were out about an hour and a half ago, hour or so ago as well. So a lot of riders were riding around on their own then. Now you're going to be riding around with a big group of people. And like I said, the spray and the things that you're going to get are going to make it even worse. As you can see here, just on the warm-up lap, you can see a lot of spray and things.
Let's take a look at the track map here. Barber Motorsports Park. Jay, it's 2.38 miles, and it's been around since 2003, and it's still definitely a favorite for a lot of these riders.
No question. Down into turn one, it's off camber, kind of moving away from you. Up to turn two, big, long right-hander. Then over that hill, turn three there. That's fast, Greg. And then we're going to make our way through Museum Corner, turn 7, back through those S's. 10 and 11 are very tricky, but 13 and 14, we've seen a lot of races decided there over the years as they make their run back down to that checkered flag.
All right, so this is going to be a quick start procedure, which means here that these riders are just going to get to the grid and get moving. So we got to get to break. When we come back, Jake Lewis, keep an eye on this rider. He's really good in the wet and could really prove something today.
MotoAmerica Supersport is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by NXT Bets. Play MotoAmerica for cash. Multiple race classes live on top sportsbook and DFS platforms all season long.
We're with you live at Barber Motorsports Park here on MotoAmerica Live Plus. And as the riders make their way around after this sighting lap, Roger Hayden, one rider that we unfortunately do not see is Cameron Peterson. We heard from his team right before these riders left that he was getting looked at in medical. He has been undeclared fit. He's been declared unfit to race. This was the incident this morning.
Yeah, this morning, just coming out of turn 13 there, we see him sliding through. Landed right on his wrist, and as soon as he got up, he was holding that wrist right away. You see him running off the track there. The bike there, you know, a rider doesn't feel good whenever they just go right past the bike and don't even try to pick it back up. So unfortunately for Cam, he's going to be out today.
We did have an incident on that sighting lap as well. It was the number 111, Logan Monk. Take a look at this, Roger.
Yeah, just the puddles. You see the puddle there, you're going to have to stay away from the curbs. There is going to be puddles. It's raining, so you know, he kind of went right to the puddle and down he went.
Not the only action. Let's get down to Michael Hill.
Yeah, an incident there for Logan Monk, but also CJ LaRoche, number 20, has also pulled into the pits as well. So Jamie, drama as this race now gets up on the warm-up lap.
Yeah, unfortunately, CJ LaRoche, he finished the race 17th yesterday. Logan Monk was 21st, and we were all looking for great things out of Cameron Peterson after his top 10 finish yesterday. He was looking for some redemption today. That incident this morning has led to us not seeing him out there for race number 2. As everyone gets up to speed, let's go ahead. We'll get back next door to Greg White, Jason Pridmore, and Hannah Lopa for Motovation Supersport here at Barber.
Welcome back, Motovation Supersport. Round 1 of the 2025 season, race number 2 here in Birmingham, Alabama. Let's take a look at our starting grid as we know Matthew Skoltz sits on pole. This is the warm-up lap in the wet. But so we have Skoltz, PJ Jacobsen, and Blake Davis.
Ty Scott, Kayla Yakov, and Corey Alexander gets promoted up because we're missing Cam Peterson. We'll get back to that in a minute. Josh Hayes, Jake Lewis, T. Hobbs outside row 3. Then we have Dave Anthony, Max Van, and Torrin Collins. A little further back to row 5 and 6, we have Enriquez, Williams, Sneed, Nissany, LaRoche, and DeLeon. And then a little further back again, Horning, Omen, Mags, Monk, who we just saw, I think, fall in the warm-up lap here, and Allen also. Now, earlier, Greg, in our warm-up session that we had this morning, we saw Cam P just past PJ Jacobsen down the back straightaway. You're going to see this bike snap around. This is how quickly it can happen. And unfortunately, Cam got up holding his right wrist, which we know he's had some wrist injuries in the past, and it's been a big thing for Cam. But this one here, you know, you never like seeing somebody running off like that because you know he knows he's got a problem. And haven't actually heard anything yet on his actual condition, but we know he's not racing.
That's a heartbreaker for a rider that we look to have as one of the early season favorites for the championship to challenge Matthew Skoltz. So we wish Cam Peterson all the best, and when we get information, we'll let you know.
And right now, it's raining as hard as it has. There's Josh Hayes. Had a birthday this weekend already, and you know, these kind of conditions, he's been there, he's seen these before, but man, when you're up on those first 2 rows in a condition like this, it is the only place you want to be. If you're 2 rows back or further, these rain tires, they throw up so much water, and getting down into turn 1 and 2 can definitely be tricky. This is where riders have to really respect each other, give each other a little bit of room if you can.
You saw that taped up visor of the Bell helmet on Jake Lewis, trying to keep all the moisture out. Here we go. 13 laps scheduled for this rain race, and off we go. No traction control on these machines or launch control, so that was all right risk by these riders, and it looks like it's going to be the number 1 of Matthew Skoltz who's going to lead us through turn number 1 into turn number 2.
Look who slots into 3rd. Josh Hayes comes from that back. Now Corey Alexander on that orange Ray Hall Ducati. he's going to try to make a move. He was quickest this morning in our warm-up. You can see as they come out of here, Corey positions himself on the left-hand side. Corey might be trying to get by everybody right now as they head down into Charlotte's Web. It's going to be the 4 of Josh Hayes taken to the front with Corey Alexander following in tow.
Yeah, the reason why Schultz lost all those positions, Jay, he just spun the rear and it went sideways for him. It's not going great for Schultz at the moment. Of course, you know, a couple of years ago in Superbike, that famous race in the rain here at Barber Motorsports Park, where Schultz, Cam Peterson, and Loris Baz on Superbikes all crashed and finished on the podium in a crazy race. So we know that Schultz is amazing in the rain. We know he likes this track, but right now it's not going his way.
It's the beginning of the year. Schultz has a win under his belt. He's got probably the most to lose, in the sense that you know he's going to win his share of the races this year no matter what in the dry. For a guy like Josh Hayes, who was 10th yesterday, was Josh in the dry, I'm sure he wasn't completely unhappy to see these conditions, although you know the risk and things goes up quite a bit. But man, if there's a guy that's going to know how to be smooth and modulate throttle, it's going to be the guy at the front who's been there and done this a million times already. As you look a little further back, that's Max Van Teeg Hobbs. Just everybody's just going to kind of be taking it easy right now, feeling out things in this first lap as they come through the last corner for the first time. Corey Alexander with a lot of drive out of that last corner. Is he able to get up alongside Josh Hayes? Not quite. You also see Corey's rain cover has come undone. Yeah, it's kind of come undone. That usually snaps between your legs, so that thing's come undone. So he's going to hear that thing whipping around. But this is a good start for these two guys. They're starting to clear off ever so slightly.
Play MotoAmerica for cash. Superbike and Supersport are now live. Top sportbooks and DFS platforms. Scan the flow code or visit nxtbets.com/playma. See what's available in your location. Sign up for claimed exclusive bonuses and make your picks now. So the 440.
Bike 440 there, Greg.
Yeah, that's Kevin Horney.
Yeah, he's down in the last corner. You can see that there's debris and things out there. It looks like his airbag has gone off. So that's going to be a safe thing for him.
All right, so Josh Hayes, number 4 on the BPR Racing Yamaha. That's the brand new YZF R9 from Yamaha. Hayes, just 2 days ago, on the 4th of April, that's 4-4. If you're wondering why he's number 4, probably a good reason. That's when he was born, turned 50 years old out of Oceanside, California. And of course, his wife Melissa here in the paddock running her own race team, the MP13 team. So of Josh Hayes, who is the all-time leader in wins across all classes, he's being closed in by Cameron Beaubier in Superbike class. Beaubier only 2 behind Hayes. And Hayes just looking to score maximum points here, but Corey Alexander going to work on him. If you're new to motorcycle road racing, normally you see the Supersport class here in Motovation Supersport run on slick tires. Obviously it's raining, can't do that on slicks. These are deeply grooved Dunlop rain tires. And man, they get a lot of grip.
Blake Davis and Ty Scott going back and forth in that last little sector. You see Jake Lewis sitting right behind them on the 85, a guy that you said, Greg, would go well in these conditions, and he definitely is. He's running 7th right now. Lead 7 are separated by about 4.6. So these two guys right now out front. This race got shortened from, I believe, what was it, 18 laps to 13. So, you know, again, shortened race distance. And it looks like Matthew Schultz and PJ both trying to get back in there. 47.0 for Matthew Schultz. The leaders went 47.2, so he gained 2/10. And look at this little mess back here.
Wow.
Jake Lewis cutting through people, just like you said.
Yeah, Jason, you and I had a long conversation off camera about the physical stature of riders and how we think that being a taller rider is more advantageous in these rain conditions. And the one thing we know about Jake Lewis is how smooth he is on the throttle. A very gifted and talented motorcycle racer. But the thing about Jake Lewis on the 85 and his Altus Motorsports team, they've been together for a while, but he's on that brand new YZF Yamaha R9. So the question is, settings, like how do we get the little electronics that we have available to us, plus suspension settings for Jake Lewis, but making the most of it right now as Jake Lewis continues to charge his way towards the front. But Matthew Schultz closing down some gaps. Now what we see in rain conditions, as riders continue to familiarize themselves where the traction is that lap times will continue to drop. And oh, 71.
Torrin Collins is down, trying to get his bike up in that gravel. So Torrin Collins on the 71, another one of the Altus riders, unfortunately, has fallen out. As the leaders come across the line, the pace has gone another 2 seconds quicker. 45.2 is now the time. Whoop. Matthew Schultz set the time. You're going to see a lot of that. And you know, the thing is, Greg, when you see +0, +0, +0, and you're Josh Hayes, you're the guy leading out front. You're the one testing the conditions a little bit. And this is going to be over in that back section. You can see it's puddled up in the inside of that corner, isn't he? He hydroplaned, hit that puddle on the inside of the track, and just tucked the front on him.
Yeah, and he knew it too. And that's one of the things Hannah was talking about, that these conditions with the darker skies, plus you want to see as much as you possibly can where there's puddled water, so those clear visors. So PJ Jacobson now going 144.9. The first of our riders in the 44 bracket, as PJ on the number 15. He's on the Rahal Ducati Moto with Expel team. He's teammates with Corey Alexander, who's on the Rahal Ducati Moto with Roller Die Informing. So those teammates getting close to standing on the podium together as PJ, the 15, continues to close down on number 1 Schultz.
As a reference, the morning time that was set by Corey Alexander this morning was a 42. So they're in the 44 right now, 44.9, as you can hear the bikes spinning up and hydroplaning. And for Corey right now, he's just had a good eyeful of Josh Hayes, Hannah.
And that 42 he did this morning was over a second faster than who was second in that session. And I had to ask Corey, you know, what is it that makes you so good in the rain? And he said most of it is mental. It's mental more than physical, and that's something that he's got a really good handle on. He also mentioned the fact that while he is taller in stature than the majority of the riders, in the rain it's actually really beneficial to him because he's got quite a bit more leverage. He doesn't have to work so hard to get the bike to turn.
Yeah, and the other thing too about being a tall rider, Jay, is you know you were on the taller side when you were at your top of your game, is that in these conditions, when you're leaning over like that and you get your knee on the ground quicker than some of the riders that aren't quite as tall, it gives you a little bit more confidence.
Gives you a sense of confidence, yeah, because you're feeling for where you're actually the ground a little bit, and it gives you a sense of lean and things. As you can see, Corey's got a good run here, but Josh is really good on the brakes as they get down here. As we get a good look at Ben Spies and Richie Alexander from the Rahal team. They're watching 2 of their riders up in the front right now. Kayla Yakov, who is the 3rd member of that team, running 11th right now. It's a little bit further back, but we got 2 R9s and 2 Ducatis at the front.
And of note, I mentioned it before, but this is the next generation Supersport. So we have a variety of engine configurations, triples and inline 4s and twins that are different size, different displacement motorcycles. But one thing they all have in common is no traction control. So what you're seeing right now in these extremely slippery conditions with these Dunlop wet weather tires is the fact that these riders are modulating the throttle with their right hand, of course, the throttle hand, and that's why you're going to hear sometimes this spinning, the bike's quickly accelerating as the rear tire spins.
Yeah, and these guys right now,
PJ dropping off.
Yeah, PJ just falling back. We see a lot of red jumping up on our screen. PJ with the fastest first split, Josh fastest second, Matthew fastest third. So they're all still pushing really hard. But this is, Greg, where your modulation of the throttle has to become uber sensitive. The roll that you carry into a corner so that you're not upsetting the chassis mid-turn is going to be also very imperative as well. So in these conditions, everything's just got to happen a little bit softer, a little bit slower.
All right, so coming onto the front straightaway, you saw that tight shot that we had from our great crew here. You saw Hayes look over. What he was looking at to his left was the pit board. So he's scanning his pit board. That's the communication that the riders get here in MotoAmerica racing, in this road racing field. So they can look back if they want to, but it's really difficult to look back in these conditions because you don't want to fog up your visor. As Schultz going up the inside on Corey Alexander. So a nice pass down into Charlotte's Web for the number 1 to get by the 23. And now here comes Matthew Schultz setting off against his Yamaha compatriot Josh Hayes.
And this is what makes Matthew such a hard guy to beat. Every time he's got a sniff of it, he's trying to win no matter what. And like I said, you know, all these guys have a lot to lose, but we know that there's going to be some consistency with Matthew and PJ. They're going to be there all year in every condition. But when you're in this kind of fight now, Matthew's taken his time, kind of sussed out the feeling of the track and the bike, as you see Corey there spinning everywhere out of there. But you can see Matthews now, he kind of feels like he's got it sorted, and he's going after the number 4s. The 2 Ducati riders have definitely fallen off the boil a little bit on this lap.
Yeah, something's going on, I think, with Corey. Also, keep in mind, look, these tires, they're tires, so they do wear out if you punish them. And although they're kept at a cooler temperature because of the water, they're still subject to grip and they're still subject to wearing out. So not sure if there's something on board wrong with Corey, or maybe just that rear spin. He's signaling something is going on.
Yeah, conditions like this, the tires aren't going to wear out as quick, Greg, because of the moisture and obviously the pure saturation that we're seeing. We're going to see him do something with his left hand here. The bike spins up a little bit there. And you know what? I know Corey hurt his wrist earlier in the year, probably about 6-7 weeks ago. So maybe that is what's giving him a little bit of trouble right now. So we'll keep an eye on him for sure as he's locked back in on PJ.
And it's a good point to bring up, Jay, is the fact that if you're coaching someone in these conditions, are you not going to tell them, concentrate on relaxing?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so easy to get tense in these conditions.
You literally have to let the bike do what it needs to do in these conditions. You can't fight it. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for a lot of people, the anxiety and the thoughts of you're trying to feel for something that might not happen, in the sense that if you ride smooth and you ride consistent. And the other thing, too, you look at the bike setup changes that they make on these motorcycles to soften them up. Somebody like Matthew and Hayes, they know what they like in these conditions. So this is that one spot where we saw Torrin hit that puddle earlier. They're already starting to go through back markers. That's Shane Maggs that they've lapped already here on lap 6, Greg. Still 7 to go. But if you haven't ridden in these conditions a lot, and this is kind of almost like your first time, it's a big learning curve, especially with as much water as on this track.
A couple shots ago, if you were looking at the tight shot of Matthew Skulton, his Yamaha R9, you noticed a little piece of material flapping behind his rear wheel. That's just tape that they put on the radiator to try to keep temperature in the engine, so they block off some of the radiator some of the teams, depending on the bike, because these cooler temperatures in the water. So that's no drama what you were seeing, in case it caught your eye.
Yeah, this is it can't be said enough. It's, you've run out of things that you can say about Josh, but the fact that at this stage in his career and his life that he can still be at the sharp end like this in conditions, the mental focus that it takes to do what he's doing. Now watch the difference here. Josh kind of keeps it over to the right. Matthew lets it run out of here. See that? So and I think what Josh has spotted is the further you run the bike out there, the more water there is. And you saw the wheel spin from Matthew there as Corey Alexander looked like he was really falling back, and he's put in a great first split, 18.3. He was half a second quicker than the guys at the front. Now you got Blake Davis here with Ty Scott. They've caught up to Shane Maggs as well. Shane kind of moving out of the way a little bit, let those two guys through. Looking for Jake Lewis, because we saw him up there with him now. Now Greg Jake has dropped back to 8th. He did a minute 50.9 his last lap, did Jake Lewis. So something might have happened to Jake, but he's still out there circulating.
So the 70 on the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki team, and the 22 of Blake Davis on the Strack Racing Yamaha. And here's a look at Jake Lewis.
Oh, he's got a fog visor.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So his visual is being impaired a little bit right now, and that's the problem with Jake. So we have somebody that's gone down.
That looks like Corey Alexander, possibly.
It might be.
Yeah,
it's Corey.
Corey Alexander.
Corey was on a ripper. He had gone red, and yellow in the first 3 splits, and that's too bad. That's a bummer to see. But Corey was on a fast lap until that happened. So now you got those first 3 guys. There it is, Corey, a big one on the back corner. That's exactly where Torrin Collins fell over as well. Let's just hope Corey, it looked like he's up and he's okay. But now PJ is really closed up on the back. We're down into the 43s now. 43.3 for Matthew was his best time. He just did a 43.9, and PJ just did the fastest lap of his race, a 43.522.
All right, so Josh Hayes leads the way on his BPR Racing Yamaha R9. A very wet Barber Motorsports Park. Matthew Skulton, number 1 behind him. PJ Jacobson in 3rd. Ty Scott now in 4th. Blake Davis, Max Van, Jake Lewis up to 7th with the exit of Corey Alexander. That's going to move Teague Hobbs, Kayla Yakov, and Alexander Enrique. And it looks like Teague Hobbs has started to slide down the leaderboard as well. But Josh Hayes, at 50 years old and 2 days, he's doing what he loves to do. If you're new to the sport and you're just being introduced to Josh Hayes, the one thing that Jason and I can say about him is He wants to lead. He does not want to be behind anyone. He will do whatever he can to be out front and set the pace. But Jay, how difficult is it when you are the leader continuing to set the pace? You hear the bike spinning up again.
Spinning again.
In these conditions, wouldn't you rather, in a way, follow someone and let them set the pace?
In a way, yes. When you have this much spray, though, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But if you're going to follow somebody, you want it to be an experienced guy like Josh Hayes for sure. You know that Josh is going to be very steady, very smooth. Matthew's really ramping up right now. You can see it. He might try to go down the inside of him in this next left. Ooh. Not quite there, but that was a little bit of a test. You saw that, right? Now,
it was.
The next thing I think that Matthew will try is to try to stay close enough to Josh as they go up over that turn 4 section. Turn 4 will be the next spot. Fast right at the top of the hill. And will Matthew be able to put himself in a spot where he'll go down the inside of him for Charlotte's Web?
Experience of Josh Hayes. Watch when he comes down to the bottom here. There's water running across the track. He'll momentarily pick the bike up right about here, and then he leans it back over as he goes through that water running across the track. And that is just clear vision and obviously a lot of experience for the number 4. All the while, PJ Jacobsen hanging back there on the number 15, that Rahal Ducati Moto with Expel rider. And PJ with so much experience across the world. And we know that PJ's got tremendous feel, so much talent on the motorcycle, looking for his opportunity to pounce as we have 3.5 laps to go in this. Oh, Schultze, he went for it. Does he have what it takes to turn it? Hayes going to try to go up the inside. So Matthew Schultze in the museum corner over the curbing takes over the lead.
Yeah, but now this is this time now where, oh, there it is. That's a big one again. Trying to save it. But Greg, when you're trying to push and get away, that's the mistake that's made. That bike's going to be out in the middle of the racetrack. So we're going to have to keep an eye on how quickly he can get this bike up and get out of that impact area. See if he gets the number 1 fired up. PJ Jacobsen will have seen that as well. Matthew does a good job of getting the bike off the racetrack. So he knows points are still on the table. But man, I'll tell you, Greg, it's so difficult. You'll see guys, so he makes a great pass. Josh goes up over the curbing. Matthew goes down the inside. And a lot of times when you take the lead, you think, okay, I'm going to put my head down for half a lap. These conditions, though, can catch you out so quickly. And he was very lucky to get away with it the way he did. He kind of rode the front of the bike. See the windshield breaks off. He kind of pirouettes off to the left safely into the grass. Bike goes the other way. Matt gets the bike up, and we'll give you an update on exactly where he is when he comes around this lap.
He almost made one of the greatest all-time saves that you would find on social media for the next 10 years. But he wasn't able to get that done, and another rider down. Yeah, so Enriquez, Alexander Enriquez on the 12.
He was having a great race with Alexander Enriquez, so this is a shame to see, but these are the kind of things that happen because your mental focus has to be so high for so long, and it's so easy to just make a brief error. Now, what I'm very curious to know is, does this change PJ Jacobsen's thing at all? Now, Greg, we hate talking about championships in the first round of the season, but these are the kind of races that can change the dynamic of what a season can actually be. You might be able to gather a bunch of points. Just to let you know, Matthew Schultze came across the line in 6th place. So Matthew Schultze running in 6th, still going to get a solid 10 points if he finishes where he is. He came across, though, only 1.4 behind Max Van, who's doing an incredible job running in 5th spot right now.
So great job by Matthew Schultze to continue actively on the racing. And that's important because if you're in a situation where a red flag was to come out, you need to actively be participating, whether that's running to your bike or not, in order to get a result. So Matthew knows those rules, but what can you say about this guy?
Josh getting away just ever so slightly, which makes me almost feel, let's look at the lap times. The conditions are actually getting worse again. You can see the amount of rain that's coming down on that front straightaway. Minute 43.4 for Hayes. That's his fastest lap of the race. So for Josh Hayes right now, he's focused his way all the way through, and he's going to see a 1 second lead on his board. If he gets back around this lap, he could possibly see +1 on PJ. PJ, I think right now, would be happy to take these 20 points on the road Atlanta in a couple of weeks.
Impressive from Josh Hayes right now.
Really is.
Just the focus, and you know, but this is the perfect thing for Hayes. This is exactly what he needed. It's exactly what his BPR team needed. And I don't know, Hannah, it just seems like the conditions are getting worse down there.
The rain is definitely picking up. It's going a little bit sideways, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm underneath an easy up right now, and I've still got my umbrella trying to shield me from the rain here so my electronics don't get too wet. But something that PJ had mentioned specifically earlier today that stood out to me as this rain picks up is that if the conditions get any worse than they were in the warm-up session, it's really going to make things tricky. They did make some changes to his bike to get it to feel as stable as he said his teammate Corey Alexander's bike was looking.
Man, sorry, Hannah. It's another rider
Ty
down.
Scott, isn't it?
Ty Scott, possibly.
Yeah, it's Ty Scott, and he took Blake Davis
out of third.
They both went off the track. Now, this is going to help Matthew. Matthew Schultz is fifth, but he's going to move through. As you can see, Blake obviously went off the track and dropped the bike. These conditions right now are very, very difficult. This is a podium spot. Matthew Schultz is going to find himself back up on the podium. Max Van has Blake Davis directly in front of him right now. So we're going to see the white flag when they come through. Josh Hayes has gone through, and he's got PJ right smack behind him, and you can see the rear of Ty Scott's bike snaps around over the front. He goes. Blake has nowhere to go. Now it's going to be super wet, and it looked like the left side of Blake's bike was extremely dirty, but maybe he didn't tip off. But the leaders just came through, Greg, and they're extremely close at the front.
So for Schultz, doing it again, crashing, picking up the bike, and possibly a podium finish on the final lap here of this race. As we look at Schultz in third, he comes across, takes the white flag. And Josh Hayes and PJ Jacobson on this final lap.
PJ went almost a second quicker than Josh on that last lap. Josh had pulled out to a second. And this is where now you can see Josh isn't even going up over that little curbing anymore. Both these riders, final lap, and it's a very tense moment. But both these guys are veterans. They're going to give each other a little bit of space if they can. But out of this next right is so treacherous. You got to be so careful how you wind the power on out of here. See, Josh Hayes does such a good job. He rolled through the middle of that chicane faster than PJ, and that allowed him to open up that little bit of a gap. But Greg, right now the water on the track, the whole track just looks saturated. So 3 corners to go. Josh has himself a nice little gap right now.
He certainly does. The 50-year-old Josh Hayes on the BPR Racing Yamaha R9. Coming onto the front straightaway, looking for his 6th Supersport win in MotoAmerica and his 89th of all time. And here he comes. He's a little sideways, but he takes the checkered flag and the win. Incredible stuff from Josh Hayes.
Matthew Schultz, look at this. Matthew had picked his bike up. The 2 guys that were 15 seconds in front of him both make a mistake. As you can see, Blake Davis still hasn't given up on this thought that he could try to get on the podium and beat his teammate. He's running everything he can to try to slip down the inside of Matthew in the next lap. That's what he's trying to do right now.
He's making a run. Is there room? Is he going to be able to get a turn? No, there's not enough traction. Now the drag race between teammates, and Schultz on the #1 with the broken windshield is going to bring it home in third after picking it up off the deck. And his teammate Blake Davis, who also was off the racetrack.
Ty Scott's bike. Ty Scott's going to salvage some points here on his GSXR 750. And keep in mind, he's ridden this motorcycle around like this for like almost 2 laps. So he came across the line last lap in 7th. He's currently showing in 8th.
Dashboard hanging off, dirt tracking it. You think this is super hooligans. Look at him go.
No kidding.
It's not, though. It's Motovation Supersport. And you got to tip the cap to Ty Scott on the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki for that finish.
Yeah, 9th place, Greg. So how about Josh Hayes? Isn't this great? Just a solid run. You can see those consistent times in the middle. Then he ran his quickest lap of the race with 3 to go. PJ managed to close that gap back down. These are the kind of things that happen, though. You know, Matthew Schultz crashes and still gets a podium. So pretty cool.
And for Josh Hayes, his first win since September 23rd, 2023. And he extends his all-time win record to 89. And now goes 3 ahead of Cameron Beaubier, who sits alone in 2nd for all-time wins. As later today, Beaubier is going to be going for one of his own. But at 50 years old,
you can see how much it means to him too. You know,
come on, man.
He's on a brand new team with a brand new bike. Bryce does such a good job with building these bikes, and I've been watching Josh again. He's been doing a lot of club racing. getting ready, but not so much on the R9. So he's been staying sharp, though.
And I'm going to venture a guess he's the oldest rider to win a race in MotoAmerica. When we come back, we're going to talk to the Mississippi Madman and find out how he managed that race.
Lines that we covered this morning, Roger. These types of conditions, you had the chance to play MotoAmerica for cash. He was a long shot bet going in, but he's going to find that top step of the podium today.
Yeah, he was one of the long shots, but when we looked at the odds this morning, he was one of the guys that we thought that you could put a little money on there just because of the conditions of the track. So if you bet Josh on this race, you're pretty happy right now.
An incredible feat for Josh Hayes, and as soon as that race got started and he was able to move himself up to the front, it was his ride all along. 89 all-time wins, leading the rest of the field. You can see his wife there, Melissa, making her way over to meet him to celebrate.
You could just tell right away, right off the start, going into turn one, we were watching that Josh was making moves. And I said he's going to want to try to get in the front, and he's going to want to control the pace of this race, and that's what he's able to do. And, you know, 50 years old, he used every bit of that experience to win this race. He knew where the puddles were. He knew what lines to stay out of, and he was just able to be consistent, ran his pace, and comes out on top today. And just so impressive with his age to be that good.
You see Matthew Skoltz there stopping to talk. That is his old crew chief, Ed Sullivan, there on pit lane. It looked like he was giving him a couple of little pointers about the racetrack, the condition of the track right now, as he makes his way over to celebrate his podium.
And I think for Matt, he's got to be happy with that, to crash through the chicane and get up and still end up third.
All right, let's go ahead and send it back over to Greg White, Jason Pridmore, and Hannah Lopa to hear from these top three.
Hayes coming in to greet his wife, team owner and crew chief, Melissa Paris. And she's super happy, as is Josh Hayes. Boy, if you haven't seen MotoAmerica or Superbike racing in years, you turn the TV on for the first time and you're going, am I watching like now, like real time? Because Hayes with a 0.7 second victory over PJ Jacobsen, tip of the cap to him too. Skoltz 33.9 seconds back after falling off, picking the bike up, getting the hustle on over his teammate. Max Van, good top five. Jake Lewis able to recover with his fog shield to 6th. Kayla Jacob is 7th. Teague Hobbs 8th. Ty Scott, incredible, in 9th. And Jared Desaney in 10th place. And you can see that gap, that disparity. I mean, it's just the way it happens in the range. Exactly. We call it the great equalizer, but in addition, it's also the great separator.
It absolutely is.
All right, let's get down to Hannah, who has our very happy race winner.
It's always great to see a big smile on Josh Hayes' face. 50 years old, and he gave himself quite the birthday present this weekend with his 89th career victory. You saw Cameron Beaubier win yesterday, his 86th creeping up on your record, and you had to double down, didn't you?
I didn't like that very much at all, and but if I were a betting man, I think I would have lost today, because I just didn't quite think we had it. So the race, we got a little lucky it went our way. I know how fast Matt is, but man, the track was pretty treacherous in that back part of the racetrack, and when that happened, I wasn't real surprised. So I just, even when PJ got there, I thought, man, if he comes through, I don't think I have an answer. I'm going to get this thing to the finish line, and man, I feel so lucky and thankful to get here first. Big thanks to Bryce Prince Racing. What a job. Dunlop's done a fantastic job for us. Those were treacherous conditions on these tires, and we got it there. And, you know, all the safety gear people, Rai, thank those guys. And, man, what a special weekend. Yeah, thank you.
Impressive ride by Josh Hayes, guys.
It certainly is. And, of course, Jay, you and I were talking during the commercial break. Jeremy McWilliams has won a race here in MotoAmerica in his late 50s, but in Supersport, without question, Josh Hayes becomes the oldest race winner in the class. Let's get back down to Hannah, who is with our second place finisher.
And it's his second place finish of the weekend. 2 podiums for PJ Jacobsen. Now, when we spoke a little bit earlier today, the conditions were already pretty tricky. It's coming down much heavier out there. How challenging was that race?
Yeah, it was pretty wild, you know. Josh rode an absolute great race. But honestly, I think I was in my head too much and really wanted to finish at the end, and I think I could have got him. But, congrats to him on the win and stuff. And then Schultz getting back up here to get third. That was pretty incredible after his crash. But the track was like a joke out there. Like I was tucking the front on like every straightaway, like straight up and down. So it was not really ideal or safe to ride in. But yeah, we're here on the podium, so another 20 points.
Fortunately for PJ Jacobson, he brought it home safe right to the podium, guys.
Yeah, and that's the veteran in him. Like, he's going to look back on this race, in a couple months from now and say that was the smart move, just getting those 20 points.
100%. And the thing is, you heard both Josh and PJ echo each other saying, I just want to get this bike and bring it home. Let's get back down to Hannah.
Third place today, Matthew Schultz, and not unexpectedly so. It's not the first time he's been on the podium after crashing out during a rain race. Got some damage here to the windscreen. You made a pass, and ultimately, after that pass was complete, you went down. You were able to pick the bike up. How do you mentally overcome something like that and just refocus yourself and then still make it to a podium finish?
Yeah, I mean, we had a similar situation in 2021, I think it was, but, you just got to keep on fighting the good fight. You crash, pick it up, and just try to carry on going. I was hoping I would salvage a top 10, but just a couple guys crashed and, ended up third on the box. Thank you to my team. That was a hell of a ride on the front of the bike, and fortunately it wasn't too badly damaged. Overall, sorry to the guys. We should have done a little bit. I shouldn't have crashed. I knew that there were puddles forming there, and that was just, all my fault. But yeah, next round, hopefully come out swinging. Hopefully it will be dry for us. But thank you to the track racing guys. They've been working hard. Proves that the R9 does absolute wonders, whether it's wet, or it's pouring down, raining. Well done to Josh. I think both of us are the two oldest guys in the Supersport class. So it's, I'm happy for us both to be up on the podium. Well done to PJ. And yeah, just gonna keep on fighting and yeah, try to bring home some more podiums and some wins for the rest of the season.
Solid points haul for the defending champ.
Yeah, so great job by Matthew Schultz. And like Hannah said, it wasn't his first time doing this. And the clip of him, let's take a look at it. It's been all over the internet. Heck, it's even been on Rogan's podcast. Tell us about this
Beat
one.
pirouette's pretty good here. So Matthew, the one today was pretty special. This one, I remember calling this race, and I was amazed just watching him hold on to both bars all the way down. And for those that don't know, this is probably a good 2 or 3 football fields. He slid along with his motorcycle, and Cam Peterson had crashed just a little bit earlier than that.
And
you see Cam go by.
Yeah.
Cam had picked his bike up and gone through, and then Matthew had done that as well. So good for Matthew. I love that he apologized to his team, although I don't think anybody would fault him at all.
Incredible race with the results across the board. Hayes the story, PJ right there as well. Schultz picking it up. Blake Davis running off as well, getting a great result. Max Van, a solid top 5 finish. And of course you have Ty Scott, who is able to bring home a motorcycle that just was missing a front end in terms of the bodywork, and the dashboard was hanging off. And a credit to the Vision Wheel M4 XR Suzuki team as well for building a motorcycle that was crash worthy enough for Ty Scott to bring it home in 9th. Well, podium celebrations getting underway here in the rain. Our coverage will continue from Barber Motorsports Park here in Birmingham, Alabama. It's Motovation Supersport Race number 2.
Here with you on MotoAmerica Live Plus as we continue watching the podium celebration for Motovation Supersport. We watched those replays, Roger. We were talking about it this morning. Matthew Schultz almost repeated.
Yeah, and it's just incredible to have the crash that he had, and while he was sliding, the first thing he thought about was getting back to the bike. You see a lot of the veteran riders do that. They crash, and they know how important those points are, and slide like that. And a big crash to the chicane. I mean, it's, even in the wet, it's pretty quick through there. And also Tyler Scott picked up his bike to end up 9th. As this title winds down toward the end of the year, they might look back at this race, picking those bikes up, and those little points that they were picking up might be the difference between being a champion and not.
See the conversation between Matthew Schultz and Josh Hayes, 2 riders very well respected amongst their competitors, and the universal hand language. What is it they're relaying to one another, Roger?
I think he's talking about just the bikes moving around, the sliding, and talking about the puddles as well. It looks like they're talking about the back part of the track. just kind of go back and forth. You see Matt's hands there, saying the front end's tucking, as we heard PJ talk about on the front straightaway and really everywhere.
Josh is trying to do the hand signals as well with the trophy still in hand. It's great to see him get another victory here in MotoAmerica competition. This is going to be a great battle all season long. The Matthew Skoltz now leads by just 1 point over PJ Jacobsen, and Josh Hayes puts himself up into the mix now, sitting, I believe, in third after getting that win today. So just the first round of 18 races in this full championship season, and we are just getting started. But we've got a great look at how tight this competition is going to be this season. Let's go back over to Greg and Jason.
MotoAmerica Supersport is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by NXT Bets. Play MotoAmerica for cash. Multiple race classes live on top sportsbook and DFS platforms all season long.
All right, just so you know, when you come to MotoAmerica races, if you're a competitor and you win, doesn't matter if it's raining. You still got to get out there, grab that trophy, stand on top of the podium, and have a good time. All right, Jay, it was a crazy one. Take us through it.
It definitely was, and a lot of different things. A lot of stuff can happen in these conditions, but it was Matthew Skoltz who once again found his way to the front. But it was Josh Hayes who made the big move down into Charlotte's Web on that very opening turn, very first lap. Took Corey Alexander along with him as you see these guys come down into Charlotte's Web. And from that point on, it was Matthew Skoltz. And PJ had fallen behind the lead two guys, and he started to kind of chip away, did the number one to find his way back up to the front. You see Corey Alexander, he's telling people there, I don't think this is good conditions. And within 2 laps later, poor Cor, he fell over in the same spot that he was actually telling people. And Matthew Skoltz would fall victim in the same place as he went up underneath Josh Hayes there. He gets flicked up over the front of that R9. Bike, though, slides along in the grass. Doesn't have that much damage. Matthew runs over to the bike like we've seen him do before here. Here's another one. Ty Scott flicked up over the front of the bike, takes Blake Davis off with him. This was the battle for third and fourth. That would allow Matthew Skoltz to chase these two guys home as Josh Hayes wins again, Greg, over PJ Jacobsen.
89th career victory. And these two on the last corner of the last lap. And Skoltz is able to get his teammate Blake Davis, broken windscreen and all. But this guy, at a very young 50 years old, is going to enjoy this night. Our coverage continues on Motovation Supersport after this.
You can see track preparations here at Barber Motorsports Park as MotoAmerica officials out around the circuit getting the signboards back up and at the ready. We still have more racing here this afternoon despite these conditions that have become more and more treacherous as the afternoon has gone on. Roger Hayden, we just wrapped up the Motovation Supersport race number 2. We still have Super Bikes to go. That will be the next racing that we have out on this racetrack. As you see the racetrack right now, it looks like it is just completely underwater. And we still have Talent Cup that's going to run their race this afternoon, but we can now officially let you know that the Royal Enfield Build Train Race, the program, the 12 ladies who have built their bikes and had their first race on that new machinery yesterday, they will not be racing here in these conditions today. They will now run 3 races once they get to their rounds at the Ridge Motorsports Park later on this summer.
You know, yesterday when this track is really nice, one of my favorite tracks, like, man, I miss being out there. Come in here today with the rain and the track conditions the way they are. It's like, man, it's not too bad up here in the dry.
No, it's we've complained about the heat up here as well, and I'm going to tell you today it's really not bad inside. This is definitely the best place to be watching from. But the fans that have come out to enjoy some great motorcycle racing, that Supersport race certainly did not lack in terms of highlights.
Yeah, and just the action, just so much can change, and that's, you know, we've talked about it all day with the rain, the great equalizer. Josh Hayes, 10th yesterday, comes here and wins today, so you never know what can happen in these wet conditions. That's what makes the races so entertaining to watch.
It is now 2:49 local time. If you're here watching with us at the racetrack, it'll be about 3 o'clock when we get to Superbikes. You can see teams getting that machinery ready out on pit lane. So we're going to go ahead and send it back over to Greg and Jason.
Welcome back as we have incredible fans who have braved the weather to hang out here and check out all that MotoAmerica Superbikes at Alabama have to offer. Wow, here's a good look at what's going on in terms of the weather. A big band that came through. The morning stuff was shut down, JP, because there was lightning in the area. But now it's just been all rain here in the afternoon. An incredible job by the crew here at Barber Motorsports Park, MotoAmerica,
they've been working the whole time,
FIM North America, to try to get this race underway, and we got it done. And after the chaos of race number 2, here's where we are in the points. So Matthew Skultz with a single point over PJ Jacobsen, and Joshua Kurt Hayes just 10 back with Blake Davis, a couple back for him. And Ty Scott, we wouldn't be talking about Ty's 20 points as he's accumulated if he didn't pick up that bike and get 7 points in 9th place.
Yeah, that was a big one. And Kayla Yakov finished 7th in that race overall. You see her there 6th in the points. Jake Lewis, who had that problem with his helmet, he ended up 6th in that race, Greg, but sees himself in 7th. Max Mann, I think that might be, obviously, it's Max's best result in Supersport, finishing 5th here. That's why you see him in 8th in points. Teague Hobbs and Corey Alexander. Corey, the kind of the loser in that part of it today, only because didn't get any points, which is a shame. Just hope he's healthy enough and to maybe just be there in Atlanta in a couple weeks.
So our crack staff here for the FIM North America and AMA out there making sure that everything is ready to go. How about that? I don't need a jacket. I don't need an umbrella. I'm just out there going
in the elements.
In the elements. Just give me a t-shirt and a hat, and I'm fired up and ready to rock and roll. You got to come check out Barber Motorsports Park. I mean, this place is absolutely phenomenal. You have the museum here, and you have little things that are scattered all over this racetrack. It's a beautiful facility. Make sure you come check it out any time of year. How about the schedule for the season? Obviously, we're at Barber here, and then in a few weeks' time, Jay, May 2nd through the 4th, we're going to Road Atlanta. And by the way, if you look at the top, Hayes, PJ, Skolsey, Blake Davis, they all love Road Atlanta. Then we go to Wisconsin, and we go to Road America, one of our favorites, all the way over to the west side of the country for the Ridge. Then we go to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, July 11th through the 13th in Monterey. Back to Alton, Virginia for Virginia International Raceway. We're looking forward to that. And then we go to COTA and New Jersey
Mid-Ohio too.
And Mid-Ohio. Looking forward to it. All right, well, that'll do it for Motovation Supersport Race number 2. It was wet and wild, and we have a really tight championship on our hands as we send you off to Road Atlanta in a couple weeks' time. Can't wait to see you there. Congratulations to Josh Hayes on his big victory here at Barber Motorsports Park on his 50th birthday weekend. We hope you enjoyed it. For Hannah and Jason, I'm Greg. We'll see you real soon for Motovation Supersport from Road Atlanta.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.